Hey, Rachel, guess what? Good news, the heat's off.
Interesting timing. Deliberate?
Weird.
Over her last 12 years as head of Lucasfilm, you're pretty clear on KK's attitude towards men.
Mark's here to tell us what's happening with Force for Change in 2016. Mark?
Oh, I'm sorry, I have dialogue?
Yeah.
I'm used to just staring intensely.
And the systematic destruction of IPs under her care have drawn global attention.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
Well, that maybe we should go a different route than we did with Indiana Jones.
Fuck Indiana Jones, put a chick in it and make her name it gay!
While this clip may be funny, it also reveals a pretty consistent pattern of repetitive behavior. And this new cycle of behavior has started once again with this comment from the new Ray movie director, Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy.
You know, I'm very thrilled about the project because I think what we are about to create is something very special. And we're in 2024 now. And I think it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape the story in a galaxy far, far away.
What is she talking about?
Well, that's the question everyone's asking themselves right now. Star Wars has been replete with strong female characters since day one. As for behind the camera, it's also had its share of powerful women, including Deborah Chow and Bryce Dallas Howard.
So this is Jennifer Lawrence all over again.
I remember when I was doing Hunger Games, nobody had ever put a woman in the lead of an action movie.
Basically, when you've run out of things to achieve, but you still want to desperately virtue signal really hard for clout.
You resort to gaslighting?
Apparently.
But she's got a great track record of handling big budget movies, right?
I'm not sure if all of you know this, but I'm not a trained filmmaker. So I never went to film school. I went to Smith College and did my undergraduate and studied economics and political science like a good Pakistani girl. And then I did my graduate studies, but also in international politics. And so I am an accidental filmmaker.
What? Crap, I tried.
This is where KK is showing her true colors and motivations. Call it maybe a petulant casting choice. Maybe she's still stinging from Iger, making her reshoot the end of Indy 5, where Harrison Ford was going to be wiped from history and Phoebe Waller-Bridge takes his place.
But now she's turned the Missandei up to 11 with this new hire.
11, 11,
and most of
11,
the
and
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
Which brings us to the clip that's lit up the internet these last few hours. Now, we're going to play the entire thing, as there's some very important context involved that needs some unpacking. Now, to set it up, this is from 2015. First, Jon Stewart starts by asking her a very important question. Notice how tentative he is. He is very aware of the predominantly female audience that's there, and he's walking around on eggshells to choose his words very carefully while still trying to get across the very important question that ironically speaks to the heart of today's firestorm. He's noticed a distinct, dare I say, unpleasant pattern in her work and wants her to address it.
This is happening now. And so you are watching the lessons of, and it's a dramatization of the lessons of it. As an activist and an artist, do you make that calculation? Who is my target? You talked a little bit about, I want women to watch this, and I want them to feel empowered, and I want my daughter to have heroes. I couldn't help but notice a thread through each of these, that the men were assholes. And I'm wondering, as one of them, what is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? And is that a part of the calculation of your art as well? And what's been the reaction to that?
Oh, absolutely. I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable. Not you, just not you. Not you.
Point taken, point taken.
But, it is important to be able to look into the eyes of a man and say, I am here, and recognize that. And recognize that I am working to bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and it should make you uncomfortable because you need to change your attitude. And it's only when you're uncomfortable, when you're shifty, when you have to have difficult conversations that you will perhaps look at yourself in the mirror and not like the reflection, and then say, maybe there is something wrong with the way I think, or maybe there is something wrong with the way I am addressing this issue.
Again, to be clear, the context of these statements should be taken into account. This was almost 10 years ago. When she said this, it was as an Oscar-winning documentarian filmmaker where her world was shaped by detailing the atrocities against women by the likes of the Taliban. Those are primarily the type of men she was talking about. But there is a far larger issue at work, and the one that John was really reaching for. Notice that when Sharmeen says she likes making men feel uncomfortable, everyone laughed. Some were clearly uncomfortable and tentative in their laughing, but they were laughing all the same. You don't even need to do the usual flip the genders thing if a male director had said that. I like making women feel uncomfortable.
No.
Instead, replace those nouns with any group. African Americans, Jews, Muslims, children, Shriners, women, doesn't matter. You mention any other group and people would be out in the streets protesting. She would have been canceled right there and then. But demeaning men is okay. Funny even? But wait, it doesn't end there.
My greatest asset, to be honest, is that I'm a woman. I mean, you know, many women that come from our part of the world think that it's a disadvantage. I've always thought that being a woman is my greatest asset. I mean, I really can get away with doing a lot of things in Pakistan, getting into places and getting out because I'm a woman.
But you don't play that card, do you?
Of course I play the woman
you
card.
do?
Hell yes!
I wanted to hear that.
I mean, you're a South Asian woman. You've got
Of
to play
course.
the woman card. There's a long line of men
Drag.
standing. Stand
That's-
to the front of the line. How can I stand if there's 100 people standing in line? No. When you can play the woman card,
You will.
you play the woman card, the damsel in distress. I mean, don't I look like a damsel in distress?
The fact that you say that sometimes that you use that card is immensely interesting for me to hear because very few women admit to that.
Well, you know, the thing is that you've got to play all sides, you know. If I need to stand up and face a man and look at him in the eyes and scare him off a little bit, I do scare Pakistani men off a little bit. That I do, and I enjoy that power.
You like being intimidated?
I enjoy that power that I can scare him, and he kind of takes a back step and then looks away. And then if I need to be a woman and be the damsel in distress, then I will be the woman and be the damsel in distress because we live in countries where you can do both. And I like that. I like the fact that somebody else is going to stand in line and let me cut in and say, please. I like that. Why not?
You're either a strong woman or a victim. Which is it? You can't be both. Pick a lane.
Today's episode is brought to you by the letter M.
Misogyny is a word so overused and abused, it's nearly lost all meaning. Meanwhile, its opposite, misandry, may be a word completely new to some of you, and there's a reason for that.
Patterns are repeating.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, we heard another similar clip from a future Star Wars director.
I would be worried if everybody across the board was like, yeah, that was a good movie. It's much more exciting to me when you get, you know, a group of people who are like coming up to you and really, really excited about it. And then there are other people who walk out just, I mean, literally saying it was the worst movie I've ever seen. Having those two extremes to me is, you know, is the mark of the type of movie that I want to make.
And look how that turned out. Now, here we are yet again. Now, I get that her upbringing and her doing these documentaries may have probably really soured her view of the world, but it's pretty clear that her hatred has been transferred to an entire gender, especially because she keeps repeating it and makes no qualifications for specific groups like the Taliban, just all men. As this feature is her only distinguishing characteristic, it seems pretty clear why KK hired her. KK's hiring practices seem to indicate that Greta Thunberg is qualified to direct a Star Wars movie, and to be honest, I'd probably rather see that version more than this one. Handing the most important IP in history over to someone who has never made a Hollywood film at all and has a clear disdain for the target audience is about as clear a message as you can possibly get. But let's look at the reality of the entire situation. Star Wars has had great female directors. It's also had just okay female directors. It's had really awesome male directors. It's also had male directors who couldn't direct their way out of a paper bag.
It's like your junk has no bearing on storytelling skill.
Funny how that works. You might as well say that Star Wars directors should only be redheads. We know from past experience that they'd actually have more success that way. Her agenda is the only thing we've heard coming out of her mouth. Nothing about storytelling, character. Even her own star doesn't believe in character growth.
Besides her longing for her family and parents, what would you say is another weakness for Rey?
I do not think that is a weakness. Great question, but I don't think it's a weakness. So yeah.
Do you think she has any just kind of inherent weaknesses or
I mean, I don't really believe in weaknesses in people.
Okay.
Here is my bottom line. This past year in entertainment has been hard enough. I didn't do reviews of shows like Secret Invasion or The Marvels because it would have been like beating up the little kid on the playground. I want to celebrate the good things. I want to critique honest efforts by honest filmmakers, whether they hit the mark or not. Because even if they missed the mark, I respect the genuine creative effort. Sharmeen is a journalist. She's made documentaries telling other people's real life and often tragic stories. I respect that. Her attitudes aside, she's not suited for this. You may as well have hired Wolf Blitzer to direct this movie. But we cannot put her attitudes aside. I draw the line here. I will not support hate of any kind against any group. I will not go see this movie if it ever sees the light of day. Not even to hate watch it, not to review it. Obviously, you're free to do as you choose, but I recommend you do the same. Otherwise, nothing will change. They will keep making more garbage as long as you keep funding it. I wish all of you the absolute best for 2024. I deeply and humbly thank you for all of your support for this channel. It really does mean a lot. Right now, Doge and I are going to go outside and touch grass.
I will poop in the grass and balk at all the things.
As you should, buddy. As you should.